neat to see everybody from around the globe. I saw New Zealand. I didn't see all the chat, but it's so exciting to see everybody. I'm not going to talk long because we have some great panelists who are going to talk all about, the opportunities presented in coaching. But I do want to point you to another resource that is going to be available. Put it in the chat at the end, which is the 2023 Global Coaching Study. And ICF has put this out a number of years. And this year, what it reveals is that, coaches are still optimistic about the future of coaching. There's robust growth in the number of coaches and annual revenue. So we're emerging from the pandemic even stronger than ever. There was some real good growth in the pandemic, but even more now. What I also wanted to share and encourage you is what really excited me about ICW about 3 years ago, and really excited me about the coaching profession, was the time I spent on a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee providing laser coaching, and to meet people from throughout the world and help them in 20-minute coaching sessions just felt so good to my heart, and just really was an amazing experience. So if you haven't signed up yet, I would encourage you, I'm sure that's going to be in the chat too, is the opportunity at the end of ICW on Saturday to participate in our coaching pro bono session. And some of the same people that are here today are going to be there providing coaching services. And you're just going to love it. If you haven't experienced it yet, you're just going to love it. So I would highly encourage you to do that. So that's enough from me today. Again, I welcome you and thank you for coming. I'm going to turn it back over to Robin and Katie. Thank you.
And I'd love to interject real quick, because I think you just mentioned that some of those coaches that will be coaching on Saturday are here. And so if you have signed up to do pro bono coaching on Saturday to provide free sessions for anyone around the globe, put a heart reaction up now. I would love so people can see who's going to be there and who's going to be able to support and give free sessions. So as you can see, there's going to be, and this is just a small portion, there'll be a lot of coaches there to help. So come and get some coaching, see what it's like, get a feel for it instead of just learning about it, actually experience it.
So as we begin tonight, as our chapter meeting, we always have a few things that we like to do before we get to our conversation. And so I'm just going to reshare my screen and share with you some of our upcoming events. We have 3 different coaches cafes still to come this week. We have 2 happening tomorrow. So we have one tomorrow, Wednesday, May 10th from 10 to 11:30 in El Dorado Hills at the World Travelers Coffee in the El Dorado Town Center. We have one tomorrow from 2 to 3 p.m. So if morning doesn't work for you, feel free to join us at the Granite City Nook in Folsom. And then Friday night, we have a happy hour from 4 to 7 p.m. And that is at Drake's The Barn in West Sacramento. All of these are live events, and different people may be at different events, but it's just a great way to casually connect with others. There's no specific program at our coaches cafes, just really wonderful opportunities to talk and to learn, and even bring a guest if you'd like, who is interested in coaching or learning more about it. We have a special event on Saturday, as we've been talking about already today. It is our Experience Coaching Laser Coaching event, which is part of our ICW week, or International Coaching Week. So it is this Saturday, May 13th. The drop-in times are from 10 to 1, and laser coaching sessions are typically 15 to 20 minutes of time. So you can allow for about that amount of time at those sessions. And friends, family, people who might just want to understand what coaching is and maybe have like a little bite of what it's like are absolutely encouraged to participate. And all of these events are on our website. So that's where you can sign up for them at ICW Sacramento. We have a lunch and learn next week on Wednesday, May 17th from 11:30 to 1, and that's on Zoom. And Steve and I, who are married, actually, if you weren't aware, but Steve and I are going to present a talk on Everyday Counts, and it's 5 daily practices for living life well. And it comes with a coaching tool that you can use with your clients. And it's also a great opportunity, if you're not a coach, to just learn how to live life well. And it has some simple practices for you that we'll be sharing. And then the other things that are always happening during the month, but wanting to include it as a reminder here. We have our Ignite supervision and best practices on Wednesday, the 17th from 6 to 7 on Zoom. And then we always do a monthly core competency training. So it's a great opportunity to get some CCEUs for core competencies and to learn more about them with Lori Cozart. And that is March 26th from 6 to 7.
It's May 25th. May 25th.
Sorry, I took it over. May, yeah, you're right. It's May 26th. Thanks a lot, Lisa.
25th. Sorry,
25th.
26th is a Friday. We're not doing it Friday night. Thursday night. Yes.
Thank you.
It's in the chat. Yep.
So it's May 25th from 6 to 7 p.m. Thank you for that correction. And before we do our final thing, just invite you all to join us on our social media. Again, you can register our events here at icfsacramento.org. You can follow us on our socials, lots of different ways to follow us. And we really encourage that. We have such great people in our communications group that put out awesome content, which we really appreciate. So that's a great way to join us and hear what's happening. And then we always want to thank our partner, which is UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education, for their consistent support of our chapter. I'm just going to stop the share. And before we begin, the final thing that we like to do at our meeting before the actual conversation is just to acknowledge our volunteers and to celebrate some of you that are here as well. So first off, this week doesn't happen, International Coaching Week doesn't happen without a wonderful committee of people who puts it on. And so I just want to make sure we acknowledge and thank our wonderful committee, which is Katie Kanowsky. So put a little heart in or a wave as I say your names. So Katie Kanowsky, Lisa Laughter, thank you so much, Tara Brennan, and Gavin Ambrosini. They put in so much time and energy into this week and all of the different events that goes on. So behind the scenes, we really appreciate all of you and your hard work. And then finally, we have a time for members to share a celebration. So we would love it if we have like time for 3 people. So if you have a celebration that you'd like to share, either personally or professionally with the group, you can come off mute or maybe raise your hand first, and then we'll pick 3 people. And we would love to hear what you would like us to celebrate with you. Do you have anything? Okay, Tina.
So I'm celebrating International Coaching Week by co-hosting a coaches cafe tomorrow. I'm doing the El Dorado Hills one. So really encourage anyone who's in our area, or even if you're not and you'd like to drive a little, to come see us. And the second thing is my husband and I went out Sunday just to window shop for a travel trailer, and we bought one.
Nice.
So we're replacing our old one that had a leak and the floor rotted out and all that good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to some camping this year.
Sounds like a fun summer ahead for you. And thanks for hosting the Coaches Cafe tomorrow at 10. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share a celebration with us?
Well, I know this may not feel big for anyone else, but my son did the dishes without being asked. So success, success. So, and you know,
Very
while
good.
it's not a professional win, I will say that it does make my life a lot easier, and that's worth celebrating. So yeah.
That's fun. I love it. That's great. Thanks for
He's
sharing.
15 for context.
Yeah. That's That's a big win. That's a big win right there. Anyone else have a personal or professional celebration that you'd like to share? Right.
All right.
Share that I talked to somebody today who's completing the UC Davis coaching program right now, and just the hard work that the students who are in coaching programs are putting in. So I just celebrate all of you if you're in a coaching program or know somebody who is. It's a lot of energy and work, and so it's a lot to celebrate. And I know that that particular program is ending in June and they're coming to a close. So anybody who's involved in that, I really want to acknowledge and celebrate. So thank you all for being here so much. And once again, feel free to ask questions in the chat and or during the Q&A time at the end. And Katie, you are up next to invite us to the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll get down to what we're really here to do is talk about coaching and the different ways that we can approach it that may look similar, but actually we all bring our own flavor and style, and we're going to get to hear those styles from our different panelists. We're going to start today. I'll introduce Melna Jones. She is actually she was the president when I first became involved with ICF Sacramento, and she is the CEO and founder of Simply Led Coaching, which is a woman-owned small business specializing in leadership development and coaching, training, and consulting. She works with transitioning leaders that would be newly minted, like fresh leaders, or leaders that are going from one level to the C-suite or going up and really needing to up their skills. She enjoys the most about her coaching practice is that she gets to take the leadership journey with someone to help them find their inspiration, their passion, and their value and fulfillment in the work that they're doing. And so that really excites her. She has her bachelor's in professional aeronautics, not something I was expecting, blew my mind, and her master's in telecommunications management. So welcome, Melna, to the stage. Next, we have Paul Briley, who is one of our members and is showing up and brings so much energy everywhere he goes. He has more than 25 years of experience in learning, leadership, consulting, and coaching. He works with people who are on the edge of a dramatic transition and really looking to change the path that they are on completely. So not a little change, but a big change. And he's currently in training to be a sober coach and expand his offerings and that big change, right? And so I'm excited to hear that unique niche that you have there. Then we have Charmaign Lomastro, and she has 10 years in career development and transitions. She is the founder of Careers Imagined and works with professionals who are ready to be empowered and make positive changes in their career to reach their full potential. And next we have Ninez Piezas-Jerbi, which she has more than 30 years working for an international organization in knowledge management, and she now works with women CEOs in nonprofit to enhance their personal leadership and confidence so that they feel empowered and aligned in their work. She's also a Kundalini instructor, which helps her support her clients through accessing the information in their bodies. And she's also, like I said earlier, one of our Ignite coaches. And so she's out there doing work and helping change the world for those who may not have access to coaching otherwise. So I'd like to welcome all four of you to the stage. And I'm excited to have you here and really learn about what coaching is like in your world. So I'm going to start off by just learning about where your coaching journey started. And Melna, if you could start us off, what got you into coaching? How did this start for you?
Okay, so from the time I entered the workforce, knew that I wanted to be somebody's leader. What kind didn't matter. I just wanted to be in charge. I'm the eldest of 8, so I've always been in charge at home. I just want to take that to the workplace. I took all kinds of training classes in my educational aspirations. I was taking leadership training, always with an eye on stepping into that role. It didn't happen until I was 40 years old. And when I did, I realized, I found out pretty quickly that I didn't know what I didn't know. So I struggled. I was in the deep end and I couldn't find help anywhere. I couldn't find a mentor. I couldn't find anyone to support me or help me. It took me about 18 months to start feeling comfortable. I won't say comfortable, but imposter syndrome wasn't nagging me all the time at that point. I learned some things. I kind of knew some of what I was doing, not everything. And the thought I had was, if I ever come across another leader in this position, I will reach back and help. And so I began then with mentoring and walking alongside people in their journey and sharing what I learned and experienced. And that grew from there to coaching, because at the time, the only people receiving coaching in my industry, I was federal government, were those who were in leadership, high leadership, executive level positions. And so that's what started me.
Yeah, seeing the gap.
Yes.
And wanting to be the boss, right? And finding out what you don't know. So that's wonderful. I love that. And how long ago did you bring coaching into that fold?
About 12 years ago now. After I began the mentoring, they were giving me all of the new supervisors. I worked in a scientific environment for federal government. I wasn't a scientist, I was IT. But they gave me all the newbies. They were less than a year in their position, 6 months to a year. And I began working with them and I loved it. It was my power. You speak of where your power lies. And I knew that was my personal power, building relationship and nurturing others and just persuading them to see what was already innately within each of them individually. So I started about 12 years ago. It was a collateral duty while I worked, and then I retired federal government and I hung out the shingle and went on from there.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Melna. Yeah, one thing I noticed while meeting with all of our panelists is that transition from the long-term career to the full-time coaching, and some are still in that transition. And so let's go to Paul. Paul, I know that you are in the new stages of your coaching realm. So tell us about how you got into this and a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you. I actually have an extensive background in corporate training and development. So coaching was actually always there. We would train coaching and management and leadership and so forth. But the coaching that I really was part of was like what I now call corporate coaching, which is really like supervisor as a coach, which, to be very distinct, is coaching to the organizational outcomes and the individual outcomes secondary or tertiary, right? So it was a very specific and tailored approach. And I resisted for many years. It was so funny. I resisted the concept of being a life coach because it's too squishy, right? Well, fast forward to 2020 when the whole damn world has gone squishy. And now suddenly somebody approaches me and says, if you ever consider being trained to be a coach, I'm like, let's go. So 2021 is when I did my official coach training, and then immediately got my ICF certification following that. So it's been really cool because I still do consulting in the corporate environment, and I still support and train managers, leaders, and individuals in that environment. And I support clients now on an individual basis. And my value system is such now that whereas my past was about supporting organizations and teams, now I am 100% focused on the individuals. So in my coaching practice, it's the one-on-one individual focus. And in my consulting work, where it is large group work, it's always, I put the individual outcomes first. And then I will leave it to the individuals to see how it's going to benefit the team or the organization. So.
Okay, I like that. So the shift from it being about the organization to really the person that you're working with having those outcomes.
How can it be anything else? An organization is nothing but a bunch of individual people. So I think we're losing sight of that. And so I'm trying to put the emphasis back on that.
I love that. I love that. Systems theories blew my mind, where anything in a system affects the whole system. So it matters how each individual is doing. Yeah. We talked a little bit about the sober coaching. Tell me about that training. You're in that training currently?
Yeah. So, I mean, real quick, coaching for me wasn't just about becoming a coach to help other people. It was also about becoming a coach to help myself. When I did the coach training, that was also about learning through my own experience with it. And then, of course, being able to apply that to helping other people. When I was going through my coach training program in 2021, one of the things that I did was ended my 25-year relationship with alcohol. And I'm very fortunate to say that, I was what we call a gray area drinker. So definitely didn't like how much I drank, but wanted to do something different with it. And at the time that I did that, I knew maybe I will probably coach other people like me someday. At the end of this last year, the universe spoke to me and said, okay, it's time now. And so I did some additional training. I'm actually just completing that to be able to help people who are looking to change their relationship with alcohol. There's a whole bunch of stuff I can share, but in our society, basically, you have people who are considered social drinkers, and then you have people who are considered problem drinkers, and then there's everybody else in the middle. And those are the people we don't talk about, and those are the people that I'll be supporting. And it's gray area drinkers. You can look up Jolene Parks on YouTube, and she'll explain it in 5 minutes or less. That's the kind of coaching I'm going to be doing. But it's great because when I say I coach people who are looking for massive transition in their life or to change their life path, that is one of the ways that you do it. Is if you have a relationship with anything, food, fitness, sex, alcohol, drugs, whatever, you can't change your path until you change your habits.
I love that. All right. Thank you, Paul. All right, Ninez, come on in and tell us a bit about your path and how you came to be a coach.
Well, for me, I think coaching started by introducing the word leadership to where I used to work. I used to work for 30 years in a nonprofit international organization. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the way international organizations work. It's very political, it's very bureaucratic. So there's a responsibility for everybody, but at the same time, nobody's responsible. So they like the word management, but they're not really familiar with the word leadership. So they think managers are automatically leaders, which of course is not the same. And so because there were so many things that were decided or left undecided. And so I said, well, who's in charge here? So I had to tell them that they had to change their way of managing, or they had to be managers who were also inspiring other people to be leaders themselves, to take important decisions, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to make the tough decisions. And so when I studied leadership, I also found out that leaders need support because leadership is personal. And that means being vulnerable, being out there, saying the things that are not popular. And most of the time, you're afraid, you're rejected, you're embarrassed, you're humiliated in front of a group of people for the sake of for the sake of the common good. And so I said, somebody has to. It's good to be a coach because we need a lot of leaders, especially with the problems of today. And so that got me into coaching.
Yeah, I love that. When did you bring coaching into that fold? How did you bring coaching into that?
I became a coach in 2017, so I've been a coach for 7 years. It took a long time because I first had to make sure that people could trust me. When you're sort of trying to introduce the word leadership, you don't want people to suspect that, oh, she's out there because she wants a promotion or a bonus, or she wants to get visibility, that. So I had to make sure that people could trust me and I didn't have any personal agenda behind it. And so, and that sort of inspired, I was hoping that just by being one of these people who stood out there for the common good, I was also inspiring others to step up to plate and also be one of those people who would inspire others to be leaders. But so when I got into coaching, it was all about personal leadership, where you need to fortify yourself to be able to manage others. You need to manage yourself first before you manage others. But at the same time, leadership could also be leadership that's not really you. So I focus on authentic leadership, where you're trying to be a leader, but true to your nature, true to how you're configured, true to what's important to you, true to what's important to your loved ones. Sometimes in this day and age, your values are not necessarily the same as the values of the place that you work in. So, and that's where the stress comes in. That's where there's a misalignment of your values with the workplace values. And if you're a leader, but if you're trying to lead people into values that the organization dictates you to do, which don't align with your own values, that causes a lot of stress and heartache. And you feel like you're really, you're not being true to yourself. You don't remain grounded. So personal authentic leadership is something that I'm focusing on. That's why I became a coach. It's not easy. I mean, it's easy to say, but it's not really easy to do, because it's what you do every day that makes it work. You can't just do it once a month or once a year. It's something that you need to embed in your own life. And it's hard when you don't have somebody to constantly be a nudge and to be like a secure base to your leadership. And that's why coaches are really important.
I love that. It's like a safe place for them, right? To open up and to unpack and look at not just how they're showing up as a leader for others, but how they're showing up in their own personal leadership. I love that. That's
Absolutely
beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Charmaign. Oh, I can't hear you. Go ahead and unmute.
Sorry about that.
Welcome, welcome. So tell us about your journey. I know you've been focused in career for a long time. So tell us how this all came about for you.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, gosh, there's several different stories. Which story do I tell about how I got here today? So my focus is career transition coaching, and that's very personal to me. I also do mental health coaching, but when I talk about career transition coaching, it's like I feel it in my blood, in my veins. So that's really what my niche is. And I would say part of the reason is because I made a career transition 10 years ago. And it wasn't exactly to my choosing. It happened very unexpectedly. And I did a lot of traveling, and I was just really, what did I do? I was a college recruiter. So I was ready to do something different, but I really didn't know what. So I did a lot of research, and also my journey in coaching also relates back to my master's degree, which is in intercultural relations with a focus in training and development. So HR training and development directed me also into coaching. So when I made this transition in 2012, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I was doing some research and saw that UC Davis had a coaching program, but that was back in 2012. So it's hard to I could have done it 10 years ago. But at that time, it just didn't seem to be that didn't seem to be the right direction in 2012. And so through volunteering and talking to various different people, I ended up going into career development through the National Career Development Association. And I actually worked in higher ed for 25 years. And at that time, I took the direction of career development, and I worked in the Los Rios Community College system, doing work experience and internship programs for students. And then I moved out of the community college system and decided I wanted to do some more workforce development. And so I started an organization called Human Solutions, and I started coaching people who left the workforce due to disabilities. And so that was my role, was to help them get back into the workplace. Mm-hmm. And that's where kind of my coaching, I had my coaching calls, my 30-minute coaching calls, with the clients, and it was such an amazing, uplifting experience helping these people. Mm-hmm. And they were so grateful for the support. They were so grateful for the direction. And that's where I was like, I was coaching. I was formally a certified coach, but that's where I was like, okay, I looked at this UC Davis 10 years ago, or 2012. I'm really enjoying coaching these clients with disabilities, and it's very uplifting. It's very invigorating. And that's when in 2020, I decided that I'm going to do the coaching program at UC Davis. So that was actually the program where the COVID came about. And so we were the first program that did the coaching program online. So that's really, so I would say the coaching out of the training and development, my master's degree, and then out of me making a career transition in 2012, and just it all kind of evolved. And when I did the program in 2020, I'm like, gosh, I've been wanting to do this for like almost 10 years. So it was so exciting to have the opportunity to do this. And now I do career transition coaching. I have my own business, Careers Reimagined, and then I also do mental health coaching. So that's something that's an amazing opportunity to just support people and to help them and to be there for them. So that's a little bit about my journey. Hopefully I answered your question.
You absolutely did. And for those of you who are watching, I think what I'm hearing in this is how vast and varied our backgrounds are before we come in. I realized that I never introduced myself. I'm Katie Kanowsky. I'm a mental fitness and focus coach. But in my previous career, I was a pastry chef. And as much as that feels so disjointed from what coaching is, I loved putting smiles on people's faces and making them say, wow, oh, ah. And I didn't know that that was, going to happen in coaching as well. And it was just a twist of fate. But as I've come into, let's say 2014 is when I went through the UC Davis program. And what really motivated me to do that is I want to have a positive impact on them more than the size of their hips, right? Because that was what I was doing. I was making them smile with sugar. And in this, now seeing that my true heart was in making people happy and hearing the oohs and the ahs and the wows, and that blowing people's mind, having them see new things, experience new things. And in what I've heard with our panelists so far is that it was really by the transitions that you've been through yourselves, and also the moments of the oohs and ahs, the times that you're like, oh, that's when I felt alive. I want to do more of that. And so, those of you watching, tap in and listen, whether you're a coach or you're not a coach. We all have things in our lives that we want to focus on, make adjustments, change, and shift. And I want you to be thinking while we continue to have this conversation, we're going to start talking about the things to think about when you want to hire a coach, and how, when would you hire a leadership coach versus a career coach or a transition coach, and really starting to look at who comes to these coaches and how the problems that they're solving. And I want you to be thinking about that, like what kind of coach would be helpful for me as you hear their responses, because we want you to walk away with answers that will help you make the move and the shift in your own life. So I'm curious, Ninez, am I saying your name right? Ninez?
It's Ninez, yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Tell me about who you're working with now and what challenges you're really enjoying supporting your coaches or your clients around.
I work with a lot of women CEOs or women who have who are leaders in important projects, and most of the time their challenges are self-confidence, pre-existing beliefs, just fear, or a childhood experience that sort of holds them back whenever something happens, whenever they have issues with supervisors, or when there's a lot of blocks inside in their experiences to sort of keep them from going forward to anything. So, or reaching their dreams, because they're just stuck. They're frozen because of some childhood image or childhood experiences that just traumatize them for life, and they don't even know it. So those are the kinds of people I work with, and also young professionals who do not have the confidence yet to navigate themselves well in the workplace because they're afraid. Understandably, they're surrounded by people who know more than them, so naturally they constantly have to be the diplomat of saying yes, 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 instead of actually voice what they really want to say, but with respect and with firm conviction, or just firmly and respectfully. So it's mostly people, women, and young people.
Yeah, who it sounds like that confidence piece on both of those, groups, that it's that learning when to stand up, how to stand up, and not letting those internal voices stop them from taking that action. Beautiful. All right. And Charmaign, tell us about the problems that people are coming to you with and that you like to support with.
Well, I'll talk about a couple of private clients through Careers Reimagined. One is a recent, well, actually we finished our session, but a recent graduate, and a little bit similar to what Ninez was saying. He graduated a couple of years ago and tried a couple of jobs he was a behavioral technician, I believe, and he didn't enjoy them. He wasn't happy. And so he came to me, he was really trying to figure out what do I want to do? He graduated from college and it had been a couple of years, but still feeling lost. I thought to myself, well, why didn't you go to a career center? And not everybody does that. So he came to me because he wants to get back into the work world, but he just felt really confused what direction to take. And I don't want to take the wrong direction again. And so we did some assessments, we did some brainstorming, and so I would say those who are new in the workforce, that can be challenging for them to figure out what direction to go in. And that's one thing that we do in career coaching or assessments. Those are common. And I know assessments are done all across the board, but that's something I actively do with career coaching. And then also mid-professionals. I coached a woman who had been in the same position for 15 years, and she was just really, really burnt out and decided she wanted to do something different. And we did the assessments and the brainstorming. It's interesting how regardless if it's a recent graduate or a mid-professional, it's a similar sort of process. And it's also, there's the nuts and bolts of what the logistics, but then also looking inside, looking within. What are your fears? What are your challenges? What are your doubts? What are your limiting beliefs? And what do you really want to do? What really excites you? So I would say those people who are just not sure what to do next in their career. And I'll just say one last thing. I also work in outplacement. So I work with people who have been laid off in the tech industry. And that has been really, really challenging for people who have been in the same company for 20 years or whatnot, and they're getting laid off. So that's a big clientele right now that's feeling very challenged
Yeah, not knowing which way to go and not feeling clear on the direction or feeling like what you've been doing isn't landing can really stop people from making progress. So it sounds like you help them find that clarity of the next best path for them to take.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so amazing. Like, how many sessions should I get? I'm like, well, let's just try a month. And then in 4 sessions, they're like, and they're out direction. I'm like, it can be done. You don't have to do it it can be done in 4 sessions and you have direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful how quickly coaching can make a huge difference in someone's trajectory.
Yes.
So thank you, Charmaign. And Paul, why don't you tell us about who you really are enjoying supporting right now?
This is cool because I still feel like it's, when you do the conversation around who's your ideal client or who's your client avatar, I'm an empath and a people pleaser and a fixer. Like, I don't know how to figure out my ideal anything. So I'm letting it form, but I will tell you, my energy attracts primarily women who are at a midpoint in their life and are looking for a transition. And I am humbled and honored to say that what comes up for those individuals is that they're looking for someone to give them permission. Permission to say, think, feel, challenge, believe, whatever they want to. That is what I have found. And it almost brings me to tears every time I think about it, because what an honor that is. And typically what I will find is about 2 to 3 sessions in, some big something comes out, some confession, some secret. And then it just goes very quickly from there. So what a cool thing. And then male clients do come to me, not quite as much as female clients. And what I find is that with my male clients, they have a tendency, and I don't mean to make any generalizations here, I'm just trying to paint a picture. They tend to be a little bit more in touch with their intuitive and feeling side. I don't attract clients who are rigid, directive, rule driven. I tend to attract people who are very, very, very curious and introspective. And so I'm very excited about that.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Melna, tell us about who you're working with and really enjoying.
I am working with both ends of that spectrum. I was talking about the folks who are just kind of diving into the deep end of leadership, along with, I have one client who got promoted 3 times last year in 18 months. So she went from contracting specialist to manager of contracting specialist to now she's director and senior director. So she became senior director, and she is just really having a hard time, struggling to step up to that place. The confidence, the imposter syndrome, just as Ninez was talking about. But the group that I'm really having a lot of fun with is a group of C-suite women who are at the top of their game, but experiencing some of the same things that my senior director is running into. So it's really interesting, and it's exciting to me because I get to be a part of that. I never was in the C-suite. So to be a part of the discussions that are being had around how do I show up authentically? What's my brand, and how do I make sure I'm getting it out there purposely? And to be a part of those conversations is just, for me, so fulfilling. I always tell the groups and my clients, I get more out of this than you guys will ever know. And I do.
Yeah. I'm best career choice I've ever made. Right?
Isn't it?
It's every session I walk away with things to ponder on and grow from as well. So that's beautiful. Yeah. It's so easy for us, and I know that I am guilty of as well, of not seeing what we have to offer, not seeing our skills and our strengths in true bright light, right? We see with all of the imperfections and flaws that no one else would notice but us. And as coaches, it sounds like all of you are helping people find that true core of who they are and letting that shine. And that's so exciting to me, because to me, that's what will change the world. And, this is about ICW, International Coaching Week, and that coaches have the ability to make this change across the globe. The more empowered coaches we have out there supporting people, the more people out there getting support from coaches. And as Charmaign mentioned, 4 sessions, you can blow your mind. And even on Saturday, a 15-minute session, I've heard people say, I've been pondering on this question, this decision for so long, and 15 minutes, I got there. And so I would love to hear from you guys, what are some things that you think are important for clients to think about when they start noticing that I'm not happy with this? What questions should they start asking themselves to see if it's time for coaching? So Melna, I'll come right back to you. What are some questions that your clients are asking themselves before they come to coaching?
They're not. That's part of the problem. They aren't really asking themselves those tough questions. They aren't. I had a client just today. It was our first time meeting together. And I really like to build a rapport. I like to get to know you because, as someone else mentioned earlier, until we have started or begun to build a relationship, how forthcoming are you going to be with me, let alone yourself? So they aren't asking themselves those questions a lot of the time. And she told me she felt like she was just all over the place, just flailing. That's what she said. I'm flailing all over. I want to go to school. I want to start a nonprofit. And she's in the military, and she's telling me all these other things she wants to do. So I think that they haven't asked themselves the hard questions. And that's part of what coaching is about for us, is to do that, to be that listening ear, and then to rephrase and repeat back what you just said to me, but also to ask the tough questions that you're not asking yourself. And so I did that for her today. And she stopped and she said, I hadn't thought about that. I need to stop. She said, this has been so good. Like you were saying before, Charmaign, 15 minutes, after all the introductions and all of this is what coaching is and what it's not, we had 15 minutes to coach, really. And in 15 minutes, she realized that there were some deep-seated questions or things that she was not discussing with herself around what it is that she really actually wanted to do. And she's going to take the time to stop and think about that between now and the next time we meet.
Oh yeah, that accountability. Love it about coaching, right? I do so much better when I'm showing up to tell my coach next week.
Right.
So what I heard in that, and I'll reframe my question because it sounds like they're probably not asking themselves questions, right? That is what we do as coaches, is help build awareness by asking them questions they wouldn't ask. So let me shift this and look at, and you shared it, what are they feeling? So Ninez, what are your clients feeling when they start looking for coaching or start looking for support?
For them, the one word that comes to mind is stuck. Why is this happening to me over and over and over again? And they're, as Melna says, I think sometimes they do not have self-awareness. So somebody has to relay it back to them. Somebody has to be the sounding board. But also it could be that the chattering brain just keeps on telling them stuff and they don't have the space to just be quiet and really listen to their heart, because the brain, there are three, as I probably mentioned to you before, there are three brains. It's not just the brain here, but there's also the brain in the heart and also the brain in the gut. And most of the time they only listen to the brain here, which is very good at just telling them so many stories, but they don't really listen to what the soul is saying through the heart or what the gut is saying through the body. And so they don't know what to do. And so most of the time they're just not clear. I know they know what to do, they just don't know how to structure it. They don't know how to word it or how to make it come to pass. And so, yeah, I think they're just stuck. They're in a loop and they don't know how to get out of it.
Well, and the image I was getting, what you're saying, is like that rumination or that swirl in the mind, like their mind is running fast but they're not clear of what to do. Yeah, I love that. Great. And Paul, what about you? What do you see people feeling and experiencing prior to getting that support and help?
Yeah, I can just only build on what Melna and Ninez shared. What I find, let's go to the questions, right? People come into coaching with the whys. Why is this happening to me? Why do I always do this, right? Why? And then there's the how. How do I not do this? How do I change? And the very first thing that I start doing is going back to this why, what, why, how model, right? Let's set aside the how altogether and let's change the why question and come to that next. Let's focus on the what's. What is happening? What do you want? What does that look like? What are you feeling? And all the coaches in the room know exactly what all those questions are. But I really get them to start thinking about the what questions, because they can set aside the judgments around it, because they come in with blame, shame, judgment, guilt, all those things, right? And so the what questions, and then why is that important? Mm-hmm. Then the how stuff can be set aside, because once you're clear on the what and the why, then the how will either A, start to work itself out through little or no effort on your own, or you'll be a lot clearer on when to move on to how, right? But yeah, those what questions. And I got to tell you, like I had to get that first, right? Because it used to always be why, the hand wringing why questions. And, and instead it's like, wait a minute. Why am I so wound up right now? Wait a minute. What am I really feeling?
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah.
Slowing him down and having him ask different questions. And that why, what I really hear in that is you're tabling it and then shifting it from why is it happening to me? How come it's important? Like, how come I don't want this to happen? What makes this important? So I love that shift and that feeling that I keep hearing. My brother won't watch this, so that's okay. But I'm hearing my brother like that. Why does this keep happening? Why does this happen? Why me? Why me? And that maybe that's a trigger, something to be noticing in your own mind. If you're questioning these things, it might be a coach might be the perfect person to sit down and have that conversation with, to get clear on it. Yeah. And Charmaign, I want to hear this answer from you from the mental health standpoint. I know that we're talking a lot about your career positioning, but we have a lot of the career positions in the room right now. And mental health is a big challenge in the world right now. I mean, I think it always has been, but it's been highlighted in the last few years. When a mental health coaching client comes to you, what are some of the things they're experiencing that maybe our viewers might be able to relate to or notice in themselves? Oh, you're muted.
I keep doing that.
Okay, it's good. It's good.
Yes. So I would say lots of times they're experiencing confusion, uncertainty, fear. I coached a client today and she feels like she's being bullied in the workplace. She went to HR and HR referred her to the coaching organization where I work. So that's a really hard question to answer because it's so diverse, the people that I work with in mental health coaching. And I would say that they're ready to change, that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Oh yeah.
And that they've gotten to that point where I have been trying to get a promotion for the last 2 years and I'm not getting one. And so my supervisor referred me to go to a coach. So it really, I'm trying to think here, what else? And then now I'm kind of rephrasing. I'm trying to remember what your question was.
Oh, it just in like and you answered it beautifully, right? Is that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, or they're, in fear and stress. And I think you mentioned shame, or I heard it earlier, like those it almost feels like self-attacking emotions.
Yeah. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's fear, and they're bottled up with a lot of different emotions. And then I saw somewhere in the chat, somebody said therapist, and that where I work, that they can, if it gets to the point where I can refer them to therapy, if that seems like that would be a better fit for them. And then that's something also they asked me in where I do work, is the difference sometimes between coaching and therapy. And so there is that fine line between therapy is more about the past and the present, and coaching is a little bit more about the present and the future. And so this is in mental health is where I have to really monitor the difference between therapy and coaching, and making sure that I don't go into the therapy side. Therapists can seem to be going more into the coaching side. But my need for compassion and empathy and really being present for these people is absolutely crucial. And so it's mental health is it's an amazing area to coach in. And I absolutely love it, because and as we all know as coaches, simply being heard is so powerful. Having somebody be there for you and just listen to you. I mean, it's powerful. If I don't say anything the entire coaching session, am I doing my job? I'm not talking. Yeah, it's really, it's so incredibly impactful for these people. And at the end of the coaching session, they say, I'm like, what did you get out of this session? It was nice just to be heard. Yeah.
So true. What a difference it makes to have the space held in a non-judgmental way to really empty out. I think it was Paul mentioning permission, right? Is a lot of our clients come and they haven't had an opportunity to share about these topics, to empty out about what's really going on inside. And that's part of where I think the questioning doesn't happen because it's confusing and you don't know, and it's all bundled up in here, and you're not supposed to feel that way. You're supposed to like your job and smile, right? You're supposed to like this, and no one else is freaking about this. Why are you? And so it can be a thing that we don't even give ourselves the space. And so I would say if you're listening to this and you feel like you're bursting at the seams, if you feel like your mind is constantly arguing about different options that you have faced, whether it's in your work or in your relationships or within yourself, that those are some things to be noticing inside of you, of that internal atmosphere. What's that environment going on? What does your body feel like? What are your emotions? What's happening in your mind? Because a coach, and as you can see, we have many different specialties and different takes even within the niches, but finding that space to open up and empty out will help you have just a lot of clarity of what to do next. And so I'll, let you popcorn on this question so that we don't repeat ourselves a whole lot. What are some important questions that you all believe that clients should be asking themselves when they start looking for a coach? How do they know what kind of a coach to start working with?
I always tell folks to, do your homework. First of all, get yourself educated a little bit about what coaching is and what it's not, what the process entails. There's so much information out there on the internet. You can just Google it and you'll find case stories, reports, and all kinds of things. So I tell people to do their homework and then take a look at what is it that they want from a coach. What do you need out of coaching? What are your goals? What's your objective for seeking coaching? And then try to partner that up with someone who says they are providing whatever your desired outcome is, that equips you better if you've got a strategy going into it. And then don't stop there. Try to interview 2 or 3 coaches. Don't pick one. Okay, I'll pick you and I'll go with you. Interview them, ask them about their experience and what their skills are, what their qualifications are, because not everybody who's a coach is a coach, or everyone who says they are a coach is really a coach. And I would even go so far as to ask for references. I didn't know all this in the beginning, but I do that myself when I'm seeking a new coach for me, and I have a coach. So I tell them to look for that, to ask for it, and don't be afraid to, and then confirm it, the credibility of the person who is going to be coaching you. Because if you are working with someone who isn't ready for the task, or who isn't really what they say they are, they can do more harm, more damage than good.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, Paul.
I would add, because everything that Melna just said is spot on. And so this is an and, not an or, right? It strikes me as, when you think about the person who's, and this is not gender specific, right? The person who's going to do your hair, you use your referral network, right? You look to hairstyles that you like to see the evidence of their work. And so what I find a lot is that, like, my clients and a lot of my peers and my immediate circle of coaches, their clients come to them through referrals and word of mouth. So they're not necessarily just talking to or doing their research on the coach. They're doing their research on the clients to see what results they've gotten, what their experience was like, how they related to the coach. So I think that's also a valuable path to pursue, is, especially if you don't run in circles that include coaches and trainers and spiritual leaders and therapists and so forth, but you have friends who have worked with a coach before, maybe just that one time that they worked with a career coach at school or at work or what have you, to do that research, right? Like, what was that like for you? Do you have their number? And then generally that coach will refer if they're not going to be a good fit, right? So just like so many communities do this, right? Like, it's the word of mouth. It's what do my friends and family and loved ones have to say about this? What have they experienced? Referrals.
Anything to add, Charmaign? I see you're mute.
Oh,
I'm not muted.
but
Sorry.
I'm not muted this time. I would say that's where the chemistry calls are so important, and making sure that you have a good rapport with that person, that you feel comfortable, really trusting your intuition. And I think that's important when somebody's exploring a coach. And I agree with what Melna said, interview a few people and do your homework. And I agree with what referrals, and that's how I get my clients, is through referrals. Somebody found me through LinkedIn, and they were researching coaches and looking for somebody very particular, and she just weeded through all different people and she found me. I just had everything she was looking for. I'm like, wow, I feel special. But she was very and having an idea about what you want out of a coach, and not just being blind, going in blindly. And just you're a coach, so I'll take anybody. And as Melna said, not everybody is. Anybody can call themselves a coach in a sense. So doing, that they're credentialed. And I think the main thing I wanted to emphasize was about the rapport, the intuition, and feeling like you're a good match for each other.
Yeah.
Or not.
Sometimes that's the case.
Or not.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Ninez?
I think I agree with everything that everybody said so far. Maybe I'd like to add culture, trust, and somebody who understands how you think, or somebody who can get the environment that you're in. But at the same time, it's also good to have somebody who's not in the environment that you're in, but who can understand it, because diversity is also important. You need somebody who doesn't think like you, but at the same time, who could spot something that you're absolutely oblivious to. So that is important, the fact that there's an outside perspective, but at the same time, somebody who you trust enough to be vulnerable with. And that's why I agree very much with what Charmaign said about establishing trust between your coach and your client, because sometimes you don't know where the session is going to end. It could go into a part where the client can be really vulnerable, and you happen to go to a place where the client doesn't really necessarily want to go there, but was open to exploring. And so that person could be in a really vulnerable state. So if you need to be somebody who knows how to handle that and to communicate it in a way that's relatable to them and that's comforting, and at the same time asking the challenging questions, the powerful questions that will get them out of their funk. So I think knowing their environment from afar is good, but also giving that extra point of view from the outside is important. But while doing that in a very safe, trusting space where they can be free of judgment and completely vulnerable to you. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I hear through what everyone is saying is this part of the compatibility, right? The chemistry, the connection, the feeling of psychological safety, right? When you meet with a coach, you want to feel like you can open up. There, is an opening, and that's why it's so important. What Melna says is try some out. Most coaches do have free consultations, free discovery sessions, and so try those out. Like, take advantage of them. Have a conversation before, so that you can tap in, right, to the whole body experience and see what aligns. And one thing that I have found, anyone can be a coach, right? You could be a sports coach. You could be I guess sports is the only thing that's coming. Fitness. And, but then we have these ICF coaches, and then people who are calling themselves life coaches without necessarily the training. So coach is still a very broad and non-credentialed, or I guess it's credentialed, it's not licensed. But with the ICF, and being that this is an ICF chapter, I'll just go into that a little bit. Some questions to ask around people's credentialing is, what are the core competencies? What about the ethics of your practice? The ICF really has this flow of how a coach shows up and supports a client that allows the client to fully come out. So when I first started coaching, I didn't ask people that I worked with if they had an ICF credential. And afterwards, I found I had some not so great experiences and felt sold to, and like I didn't get what I had thought I was buying when I signed up for their package. And when I retrospectively looked back at it, they were selling me their knowledge and their information. And so it could only take me so far. And it wasn't actually going to support the blocks within me that were keeping me from moving forward. It was just giving me the information. And so I would really highly recommend, and of course I'm ICF biased. There are some other organizations that also have some competencies around it, but check into their education. Make sure that it's not just their own experience that they're going to be coaching you on, because that's much more of a mentor or a consultant versus a coach. A coach is meant to open the space and pull the details and the nuances of your experience versus giving you our experience. And so that's something I think is really important to look into. And I say that from my personal experience of not doing it, that I've gotten much more out of my conversations and agreements with ICF credentialed coaches because they follow a system that allows me to fully show up. So biased, but I think it's justified. So yeah. Now, I'd love to talk about the coaching engagement, right? Because in our different practices, we may do, session by session, or maybe it's a year-long program or a 3-month program. So I'm curious about what you guys have experienced in your world of what is the most effective, or what you think, just what you think about it. What are your thoughts? Charmaign, why don't you start us off?
Can you start with somebody else?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite mentally ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's mentally ready? I'll let you know. Paul, go ahead.
Back to what Melna said earlier, and both Charmaign and Ninez have also reinforced this. It starts with your what and your why, your outcomes, right? Like, what is it you're wanting to accomplish? Because if someone wants to go through a coach development program to develop themselves and really just more for their own personal outcomes and not necessarily to build a practice, then maybe they'll benefit from a 6 weeks or 6 months virtual program, right? I like to, when I talk to people who are interested in becoming coaches, I spend a lot of time talking about why do they want to be a coach? What are they looking for? And then, I am biased because I went through a 1-year intensive that was a combination of classroom, in-person, virtual, cross-coaching, accountability groups, homework, reading assignments, sponsor coaches, evaluations, testing, the whole 9 yards, right? I'm biased towards that because there's a rigor that's involved, right? Going through a program like that isn't going to guarantee that you're going to be an excellent or an expert coach. And yet, as Tina referenced in the chat, putting up a sandwich board on a sidewalk saying I'm a psychic and a life coach, that's also a bold claim as well. I am of the opinion that the more comprehensive the program, the more you're going to get out of it, the more you're going to experience from it. And I think the deeper in you go, the more depth it adds to your coaching practice. So that's kind of where I stand. I'm always trying to enroll people into the big programs. And I'm biased towards my coach instructor, who's local, Cammie McLaren, not to throw in a little plug there. And I know she's not one of our sponsors, but I have one of my own coaching clients who flies from New Jersey to Sacramento once a month to be a part of this program. That's how impactful it can be. So,
yeah.
But people have options, for their budgets and for their outcomes. If you want to do a virtual program or you want to do a shorter program, if you need an appetizer, an entree, a dessert, whatever.
All right. So when I asked the question, the aim was at like a client, but what I gathered is you're talking about coach training programs.
I must have misunderstood the question.
No, it's good,
Right.
but that's interesting because a lot of the coach people on the call are, looking at, they're interested in coaching, maybe if you're here and you are wanting to become a coach, go ahead and say that in the chat. I'd love to get it, because if that's information that would be really valuable of what to look into and what program to go through, then we can pivot and focus on that. Yeah, I'm curious, but I do agree. Like what I found with the coach training programs, it's that you've had the opportunity to experience the coaching transformation through the process that makes the biggest difference. I mean, the core competencies, but that you doing it.
Katie, what was the question I was supposed to answer?
It was around the timing of the client agreement, like a 6-month program and the difference between that and, let's say, like 4 sessions. Like, what are you finding is most impactful, or what you see as helpful?
First time clients, 12 sessions is generally how I go at it. And because there's momentum that occurs, and also in that 3 months, they're self-training. So I don't have a lot of clients who renew, and I'm okay with that, because generally by the time we do the close down of that coaching plan, they are walking away not just with the outcomes from that coaching plan, but also a whole new set of skills. So I'm one of the coaches who's okay with that. I'm not looking for clients for life. I really don't think that's, for me, the right path. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always more to be coached on, but absolutely, we want to help people become sustainable and have that ability to do that within themselves. I love that. Thank you.
So
yeah.
In the chat, we have some people who are interested in understanding thoughts on programs versus packages.
Oh, okay. So the programs are, I think when Paul was talking about it, was focusing in on the coaching program, and maybe that's where the word probably shifted the meaning of the question. Paul was referring to the coaching programs where we were trained. So where he was trained, I was trained at UC Davis. I know some of you are from ACE. We've got different organizations that training, and that was what he was referring to. As coaches facilitating transformation with one-on-one clients, you can have a program, and that's where you have the kind of the flow of the session, and that's more of an education. Or if it's a program for a specific coaching container, you could do that. But usually a coaching package is for the engagement that you've agreed on with that particular coach. So in Paul's reference, it would be the 12-week package or the 3-month package for the coaching, for his coaching sessions. Does that answer the question? You can also use programs to bring in clients. Do anyone, I know actually, Melna, you have a program coming up in just like a few days. So why don't you share about how you set up your programs and your coaching engagements and the timing and that sort of thing?
Okay. So honestly, authentically, I'll tell you about just at the start of COVID, I took a training with, I don't know if any of you know Jennifer Darling, but she's spoken for our chapter a few times too. It was Build Your Own program. And that's where I got started at. I kind of knew what I needed, what I wanted to give to new leaders and transitioning leaders, but how to package that. And so I took this training with her, and it was like a 6-week training, and she did it dirt cheap. We were like her first cohort. And from that, I learned to build or design and develop my own programs. But basically what they are is what I know to be the needs, the pain points of the clients that I work with. Mm-hmm. And so I built my program around what those were and how to develop or how to grow or how to get beyond whatever those pain points were. So the training that I'm going to do next week, the workshop that I'll do next week is one that is what we were just talking about, prior to this, which is coaching. What is coaching? How do you pick a coach? How do you determine what it is that you want from coaching and all of that? So coaching 101 is what I am calling it, but it's leader as coach. It's managers, seniors, directors, or whatever your position is, coaching your employees for performance and not just directing, telling, or advising them around what to do or how to do their job. So that's what next week's will be. But in building out the program, I just looked at what are the needs? What are the pain points? I don't have boundaries. I can't manage my time, let alone priorities that are coming at me. I have this team that I've inherited that I've got to build rapport and respect, trust with. And so all of those things are covered. You know, each training, I try to cover one of those elements. And that's how I build my coaching program as well. As Paul was talking about, I'll start at 12 weeks. I would like to start at 6 months. But most organizations, if you're talking to someone in HR, they're, well, we don't know you and we don't know what you're bringing to the table. We'll start with 12 weeks. And so that's fine. Whatever the client wants, we'll start there. And usually I present them with a kind of a month by month. This is where we're going. We'll start here. This is our agreement. Is it okay if we start here with figuring out who your client is, who they are as a leader, and what they want from this role and why they want to be a leader? And then we'll build on that. And each month they're discovering until we get to the end where they're now practicing some of what they've discovered. And so I've outlined it. They sign the agreement, I sign the agreement, and then we begin walking through that thing.
Okay. So what I heard in that is that you took what you see as the consistent points that your ideal clients or the people that you're working with are experiencing, and you built a package and a program, not a package, a program around that, and that had those. And then you also, is that separate from the coaching program that you also follow kind of that same outline, the package?
Yes, because what you hear when you're doing your discovery session, during the discovery session, what I hear is some of the same elements. Yeah, I've been in my position now for 6 months and I still don't feel like I know everything I need to know. I feel like an imposter. I have this inner critic that's always saying, you can't. And so I'm hearing the same thing over. I have no boundaries. You know, I don't have work-life balance at this point. I work and work and work. And then I go home and sleep and come back and work some more. So it's, you know, similar pattern. And so I figured, okay, if I'm hearing this again and again and again, and it didn't matter at what level of the leadership rung they were at, they were experiencing it, then why not do some coaching around these things, or also training and development?
That's beautiful. Yeah. So really building things from what people are presenting.
Yes.
Right. How your clientele is showing up, and then creating a program to educate around the bases, but also a package to help coach them through the nuances that would come up within them.
Yes.
Yeah. How about Charmaign or Ninez? Do you have anything you'd want to add to the conversation around the timing and the way you set up packages or programs?
Well, for me, it's really simple for me. I agree with Melna, and it's very similar to what she does. But for me, it's usually 6 sessions over 3 months. And usually when it goes over, it's only because if they need it. Because if it goes on too long, I also don't want them to need me too much. Because by the time we get to the 6th session, they should have already gotten something that they don't, in the end, they don't need me anymore. And if they do need me, that means my coaching isn't really doing anything for them. So for me, it's a sign that the more you need me, the more I'm not doing your job, the job that I'm supposed to be doing with you. So hopefully, after the 3 months is over, we would have already scratched we would have already overcome the biggest hurdle that this person wants to solve. Also, in terms of programs, what I also offer is things that help, a practice that helps them build some kind of a shield around them, because most of the time you can't really influence the people around you, but what you can influence is yourself things like boundaries, things that annoy you. You mean those kinds of things, fear, all those things you can manage. So I sort of try to offer also those kinds of possibilities of giving them tips, not tips, but helping them how to find ways for themselves to build that kind of resilience in their being. So those types of things are also included. I offer those kinds of sessions as well, apart from traditional coaching.
No, I love that. I think one thing I hear too is just that with coaching, we want to get you to the outcome more than like, say, a lifelong relationship with your therapist. It's more of let's get you moving in the direction you want to go in. Charmaign, would you like to add anything? I know that you have multiple areas that you work in. What do you see between those? Are there differences, or is it a standard approach in your practice?
Well, I work for a couple of organizations, so that is their style, where it's just you keep getting clients one after another. For Careers Reimagined, I normally do 4, 6, 8 weeks, and it's depending on what their needs are. For example, the fairly new graduate, 4 weeks was enough. The person who was the mid-career who wanted to make the change, we did 6 weeks. So it really, I really feel it out. It's not you have to do the 4, you have to do the 6, you have to do the 8. It really depends on what their needs are. And then in coach and being a career coach, I would also say I would call myself a consultant also, because there's the logistics in career coaching, how to write your resume and how to prep for interviews and whatnot. So there's sort of logistics. And then there's also the coaching where they're looking internally. What are your fears? What are your concerns? What are your doubts? What's holding you back? So there's a little bit of combination between the consulting and the coaching. And it may be that in other types of coaching too. So that's more or less how it works for me.
Yeah. And so it's really built around what the client is showing up with, which fits what coaching is, right? Yeah. Coaching is really led by the client, depending on what their needs are. And so I like that you're incorporating it and kind of matching to what it is that they need. But then when you shared about the other organizations, sometimes it's just one at a time, right?
One client after another. Just keep rolling it. But I am amazed at, I've been going more towards 4-week sessions because I want them to get, I'm not as invested in how long we work together. Like I need to work for 6 or 8 weeks. It's like, I'm going to work with you until you don't need me anymore. I don't have a set standard. You know, sometimes we'll say 6 weeks, but we'd be done in 4. And then I might give them some money back because we're done, you know, we're done. They found a job. So that's where that career coaching is. That's what they're doing, is finding a job or finding career direction. We found a job, found a career direction. So let's move on.
All right. Well, as we're wrapping up, I'm going to add a bit of my perspective to that last one, because I think I love that we're building that sustainability and that not having them become dependent. One thing that I've started, and I have my private practice is much more about life coaching and enjoying yourself and experiencing life in just a more enjoyable way. And so it's very open and fluid, but we come across like the topics in all of their life. And so while I'm coaching, I'm keeping an ongoing list of topics to be coached on, because like, you know, oh, this isn't a big deal, but I just can't seem to get over that. I'll make a note, right? You know, when this person walks in the room, I want to vomit. We're not going to talk about it today because it's not relevant, but I've created a list, and that what ends up happening is that when clients are getting over, that's not the right wording, but moving through the challenges they came with, we've also unearthed a lot of other things. And so we then have more to work on if we're still in a contract. My contracts are typically 6 months. And so it gives them a lot. It's life coaching. So it's not so much about the impact in their day-to-day. It's about how they feel. And in 6 months, I can see such a huge difference. When someone double works with me, so they work with me for a full year, it's insane that when you keep, as the things are coming up, and I'm just sifting them and having a pile of the things that we could work on, that in the course of a year, their life often looks extremely different, and choices that they're making now or that used to be really difficult and worrisome are now graceful and easy. And so if you're looking to make a deep shift internally and you can feel like nothing's quite fitting, maybe a longer term container so you can really open it up and pull it out. Whereas if you're wanting to make a difference and really move the needle in a certain area of your performance, or, make a transition and do it well and land standing, the gymnasts that like stick the landing, right? In your next career, when you stick the landing, maybe a shorter term would be helpful. Yeah, Melna, what would you like to add?
I just wanted to add to that. I feel kind of the same way as what you're describing, Katie. I found just what Paul said earlier. I had to write that down too, because I'm going to use that, Paul. But you can't change the path. They can't change the path they're on. Some people, they can jump right in and I'm doing it, and they get in there and do it. And then there are others of us, like myself, who drag it on and on and on. But you can't change your path until you change your habits. And so working with people to change those ingrained habits that they have, sometimes they're not even aware of, but practicing a new way of thinking, of being, of doing, just changing the mindset. Sometimes it takes a lot more than 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And so I'm there for however long that is.
Yeah, I love it. Paul.
I want to build on that. I'm so glad you brought that up, Melna, and our other panelists have also talked about that. When I said earlier, a lot of times clients don't renew after 12 weeks, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to say something that's kind of controversial here, and I'm going to be vulnerable, but what I am noticing about myself is that I'm not showing up in the same way for the second 12 weeks. And I had to spend a lot of time reflecting about that. And what does that say about me as a coach? And where I'm at right now, because that's all it ever is that after 12 weeks, we'll do our close down of that coaching plan, and then we'll talk. And it's not that I won't renew, but I'm going to do a real hardcore inventory of myself. And it's not that, okay, wash my hands, I'm done with you. It may be time for you to move on to your next coach, right? Mm-hmm. I have found that I tend to be a really good activator for people. And then I'm going to say this controversial thing. It's easy for me to start getting bored because I like working with new clients. And if that is what I notice about myself, then I need to be ready to go ahead and graduate them onto another coach, if that's what the thing is, right? It's not that that's my blanket, I don't tell every client that. I'm just saying, like, if I'm going to be really, really honest, then I need to also know if I'm going to be as effective for them, after that initial engagement or not. So,
thank you for being real.
I'm done. It's kind of like, maybe it's time for them to go to, I need to send them to Melna, or I need to send them to Charmaign, or I need to send them to Ninez, or I need to send them to Katie for their benefit, not for my benefit, because I have met some coaches who are certainly not represented here, who it's all about the money. How long can I keep them? You need to be a 6-figure coach. Not my circle, not my tribe. So it's all about their outcomes.
I won't be inviting them to any panels either. Ninez, go ahead and add on to this conversation.
Yeah, I guess that came, what that makes me think about is I did work with somebody for almost a year, but it wasn't all the time. It was in periodic times, because I noticed that there were sessions where the pattern was the same all the time. And I said, then all these changes are not really transformational for you. It's just really transactional. So we need to change our strategy. We need to find another way to give you that, wait a minute, no, to give that aha moment. And so I think that sometimes you do need time. They need to live a little to be able to, you need some space between sessions to be able to see whether a method works or something that a commitment or objective works. But I think that it's a challenge for the coach to really find out what the real root of the problem is, and what's going to give it that transformational insight, internal shift. And that's actually what's very attractive in coaching. It makes you think, what is this person, how is this person configured, and what is keeping this person from not moving? So and that's why it's so intriguing. It's not intriguing. It's a challenge to ask the right question, and a question that's even almost uncomfortable for them to take, but in a very safe place. And sometimes when it does happen, and they're like, it's a very rewarding experience, even if it happens at the very end. But no, I can understand how it can go for very long. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, and it all depends, right, on the coach, the client, the relationship. And I'll say that what you're bringing up, that redundancy, or that if it's become a pattern where you just show up every week and we're not actually making those adjustments, I see what you're saying. I saw that in my practice when I started extending it, because I started at 3 months and just kept making it longer, was I don't meet every week. We do the first 3 weeks of the month, and then we take the last week to 2 weeks off. And then that gives them time to go and ride their bike without me holding it and then come back and say, I scraped my knee or something like that. And so it's finding the balance, right? And every client is going to have different needs, and every outcome might need different things as well. So wonderful topic. Melna, did you want to add more, or is your hand up from before?
Sorry.
Oh, no, I just want to make sure I heard it. But we're going to bring this together and get to question and answer. But I want to first, I know all of you, I want people to find ways to connect with you. I know some of you have some events coming up or podcasts, or an opportunity for them to book with you. And so actually, let's start with Paul. I know that you have a podcast coming out and some other things going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on, and we'll get the links in the chat. And then once everyone's shared, we'll have Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my link tree and so forth is in the in the chat. I'm still building this, right? I'm still figuring this out and still building this, and I'm learning that it comes together in small pieces. It doesn't start with, a massive marketing campaign. This Friday, I'm pretty excited because the program that I went through for my sober coach training, we have actually acknowledged the fact that in sober circles, and also I think we all recognize this in coaching circles, men don't seem to show up to the conversation quite as much as women do, but specifically in the sober circles, in the sober conversations, we are trying to encourage men to come into the circle and talk about their feelings instead of drinking about them. So this Friday, it's sponsored by our organization in the UK, but it's 11:45 Pacific time. We're going to have a 1-hour webcast that's just a conversation like this for men, and anyone's invited. It's free. You can show up and turn off your camera and be anonymous, but it's a conversation with men about their experience with drinking and then sobriety, their return to sobriety, as I like to say. And so that's happening this Friday. There's a link for that. It's a great place for anybody who's sober curious, or somebody who's even been sober for a little while. That's going to be, I'm moderating the event. And so that's a great place for that conversation and exploration. And it's also good practice for me as I continue to develop my thing around sober coaching, my approach. And then also I am about to launch, I'm scared to death, but I just recorded episode 1 today. I'm about to launch Off the Comma, the podcast. And so my little shameless plug is that I will not be bringing on experts with all the advice and information. It is going to be interviewing people about their experience with being stuck, what it was, what they noticed about themselves, what they felt, what they experienced, and what they did to start getting off the comma. So it's going to be all interview based. It's going to be all just seeing ourselves in each other, and no wealth worship, no success envy. So that's coming soon, and I'll be reaching out for folks to be interviewed. So any one of you could be approached to be a guest on my podcast coming soon. So I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you. Ninez, tell us about what you're doing in the world, and we'll put links in so people can connect with you as well.
Well, I since I retired, I've sort of decided that I was going to work still, but work less. So I wanted to make sure I had time for myself. So I don't really, I don't want to use a lot of time producing content, but I would like, I prefer to spend a lot of my time with one-on-one coaching. So I do spend most of my time in coaching, but also I give yoga classes. I give Kundalini yoga classes to whoever wants to, because I think with yoga, everything you need to know to be happy is right here, is in you. And so it's just a matter of knowing how to access that whenever you want at will. So that's what I offer. But people can just connect with me through my website, which is just nineznow.com.
Yeah. All right. That's in the chat. Thank you so much. All right. And Charmaign, what's coming up in your world?
What's not coming up in my world is what it feels like sometimes. Well, basically what I'm offering is through Careers Reimagined, that I'm offering 30-minute free coaching sessions for those who are interested in coaching, whether it's mental health or career coaching or whatever, life coaching in general. I'm offering free sessions for the month of May. So did you get my Calendly? Is that in there, Katie?
I took it off your website, I believe. You can
Okay, well,
check
either my
it
email or LinkedIn or I thought I'd sent you my Calendly link. So whatever's Robin's put in there, you can contact me and let me know if you want for those of you, well, if you can be a coach or not be a coach, whatever you do. So free 30-minute coaching session for the month of May.
Wonderful. Yeah. Coaches need coaches too.
Yeah, I have a coach.
I get a little, I go overboard, but it's good. It's because it's so good. And Melna, tell us about what you have coming up as well.
Okay. Just as I think you mentioned earlier, I'll be doing a workshop. It's next Wednesday morning from 9 until 10:30. It's a free workshop on coaching 101 for leaders. For those who are looking to do more than just direct advise and tell people what to do. And then I am also going to be doing free laser coaching throughout the month of May in celebration of International Coaching Week. So 20-minute sessions to anyone who's interested in being coached.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you all. If you haven't experienced coaching yet, I highly suggest you come and experience on Saturday. But if Saturday is not available, as you can hear, the coaches here are available throughout the month. Maybe not everyone, but I'm sure that if you reached out, you'd get support from anyone here on the panel. And really not just learn about it, but feel it, experience it. One of the things I heard is how important it is in the fit, right? The chemistry with your coach. And what I found is that working with different coaches, so having a session with Melna and Charmaign and Paul and Ninez, that in that, it will help educate you in what does resonate with you. So don't resist or hesitate. Take the opportunities that are available in May to see what this is about and how it can make a move within you and in your life, because no better time than now, right? Now is all we have. So I want to open us up to questions and thoughts or things that you'd like to have follow up, or like to direct a question directly to a single person or to the panel as a whole. And let's see, I think that raise your hand, since we have everyone spotlighted right now. Raise your hand if you have a question. That'll bring you up to where I can see you. But I'll ask Robin and Lisa, were there any questions that came up in the chat that we could start with?
I mostly saw comments in the chat, just like championing what folks are saying and some commenting, but no real questions other than what's been addressed already. I am wondering what link Tracy is referring to that has an error. I'll
This
take
is
a
Tracy.
second.
That's the most recent one you posted with the Coach Charmaign Wicks site. That one I clicked on and it's broken.
I just clicked on it and it worked for me, so I'll put the link in again.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, I see Charmaine's smiling face on the website, so I'm not sure. Yeah,
Maybe it was just the way that the code went through.
yeah, potentially.
And also connect with me on LinkedIn. Did you
Yes,
put our LinkedIn?
your LinkedIn. Yep, your LinkedIn is in there as well.
URLs, okay.
Yeah, I think we're all on there. Yeah. Odile?
Hello, it's Odile.
Odile, welcome.
Odile, yes. I want to ask, so I'm in a French coaching school, and they told us that advice are totally forbidden for our clients. And I want to know what it's a US position, US or other countries. Does coaches can give advice to their clients?
So in I'll
If
start.
if I was unclear, tell me.
Say that again.
No, if I did not talk very good, tell me. If you didn't understand my question, please.
No. So what I understood the question is in your experience, you're not supposed to give advice as a coach, and you're asking about if in here at through the ICF and within, I'm guessing, our chapter, I'm not through the US, if that's okay. And so I'm going to answer that from the perspective of the ICF core competencies. And the way that the competencies state now, they allow us to give feedback and maybe not necessarily advice, but allowing us to create new awarenesses when we find that a client doesn't actually have the information that might help them move through or might help them see things in a new way. So the competencies allow for it, but it's within moderation, because in coaching, it's really about the client having the opportunity to lead the conversation and then also be finding the answers within. So we can, but we also want to limit it so that we make sure that the information is not coming from us, but mostly being driven and pulled from within them. And that helps them embody it and take action on it much more and buy into it. Yeah. Does that help or answer your question?
Yes, it was very clear. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah. Yeah, it's not against the rules. We want to make sure that they're
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paul.
I was just going to add to that, Odile, is regardless of what standards or guidelines are, or best practices, one of the ways that I learned to do it and that I do it is I ask for permission first. May I offer something? May I add something? And interestingly, when I do that, something triggers in my mind. And before I even get to offering or suggesting, I end up asking another question instead. It kind of comes to me. So there's something NLP-ish about the asking for permission to give advice that reminds me not to give advice. but if they say yes, then you're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I find that when clients ask me for advice, before I even really start, I mean, yes, I agree with what Paul said. May I share my thoughts with you? May I give you feedback? But when they start finding their own answers, it's like they're asking me, but then they're like, can you give me some advice? But then all of a sudden they're just talking and they're telling themselves what they need to do. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's just, I see over and over and over again how clients really do have their own answers. It's just repeatedly, I see that. And I'm like, you don't even need my advice. You have the answer. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they want you to just say something that is already on their minds. Sorry. No. what Charmaine said, what I understand is they want you to articulate something that they already know. That's right?
Yes, and they think that I have the answer, yet they, and maybe even if I start talking a little bit, they'll almost talk over me, and they're like, and they very clearly have the answer. They think, so what it comes down to is they think I have the answer, yet they do have the answer, and they surprise themselves, or they don't really even notice. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, but they do have the answers.
Okay, I get it.
Does that make sense?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, my speaking is very bad, but my understanding is better.
Your speaking is great. You're speaking very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what I heard in that, Charmaine, is that when you start, it's almost like them asking for the advice, almost what Paul was saying, like the NLP part, that asking for it, then their mind was answering it. And that's why they end up talking over you.
Yeah, there you go. I'm like, that's why they tell us coaches don't need to talk much, because they've got it going on with themselves.
Yeah. What would you like to add, Ninez?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask to thank Odile, because it's an opportunity for me to say in French, because I haven't spoken French in a long time. Merci, Odile. Je crois que pour moi, l'important, c'est que mon point de vue comme coach n'est pas important. L'important, c'est le point de vue du client. Donc, normalement, on présume que le client sait déjà la réponse. Mais c'est seulement pas structuré, ce n'est seulement pas clarifié, ce n'est seulement pas matérialisé. Mais le client ne sait déjà la réponse. Il faut juste poser les questions. Et quand on pose la question, la réponse sort après. C'est pour ça, mon point de vue n'a pas d'importance. Ce qui est important, c'est le point de vue du client. Voilà, c'est pour ça, c'est mieux de ne pas conseiller de donner de conseils.
D'accord.
Et puis, on vole l'opportunité du client d'apprendre. Parce que le client doit avoir l'imagination de sortir la réponse qui est dedans. Voilà.
D'accord. Merci, Ninez.
Oh, beautiful. That was enjoyable to listen to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who else has questions? Or, it doesn't have to be about as a client, right? If you're in a coach training, or if you are a coach and you want to hear you have questions about how our panelists do things, no question is wrong. So anything that our panelists would like to add while people are formulating questions, if they have them, means the answers have been given. That's what I'm going to take it as. But how are you all feeling? What would you like to add?
I would just like to add that along with what was just said, that a lot of the time clients are asking you to give them advice or tell them the answer because they don't have the confidence in themselves to go forward with the thought that they already have. And even for those who press, and I have had some clients who just keep pressing, but what have you done? What's been your experience, Melna? Please share that with me. You've been here before. My response often is, I could tell you, but it's not the answer for you. I'm me. I have my own values. I have different strengths from you. I've had different life experiences than you've had. So my answer worked for me, and it wasn't that it was all that great. It just was mine. The response or the answer that you have, your solution, is going to be perfect for you because you're you. And my answer might fail you. So let's look deeper at what you have, what you've done, what you can do. Let's go there, because it's not going to always be the answer for them. Even if I did share my response or my solution, it won't work always for someone else. It works for me because I'm me.
Oh. Beautiful. Well said, Melna. Absolutely. Yeah.
May I add that I think if you have the opportunity to have a coach, I think you should take it. It just, even as a coach myself, it's so nice to be coached because you process every information that you get in the day. And do you know that just in 1 second, you can get 1,000 thoughts coming into your brain. And sometimes there's a lot of that information you don't really need. We take in so much more than we take out. So a coach helps you process, detox the things that you don't need as well. There's a lot of things that we take in that don't serve us. And having a coach helps us remove all that noise that we don't really need. So if you're able to get a coach, I think it'd be a great gift that one could ever have, I think.
Yeah, I agree. What you were just sharing in that, we have so much happening in our minds that we have, like that noise you're saying, is there's so much happening, and a coach, not only once they help you kind of empty it out and process and look at it, coaches often have what I've seen in all the coaches I've worked with, and maybe it comes from the training, is the ability to tie together and see patterns that when we're in them ourselves, right? We're in it. We can't see it. You can't see the label of a bottle from the inside of the bottle. We can't see what's coming out from the inside. And so having that space to then empty out, to see what is all the noise, sift through it, and then look at what the most important parts, and then tie that connection to see how this is showing up. It has showed up in the past, it's showing up now, and now we have the opportunity to change it so it doesn't show up the same way in the future. And so it's just such a great place. And it, you do have the answers. And so it can take as little as 15 minutes to just have a safe space to open it up and have the conversation. And you have lots of opportunities to do that. One with these individual coaches on our panel, but then also we do, like I said at the beginning, and we'll keep talking about it, you probably hear about it over the week as well if you're on our emailing list. We are having the free coaching event on Saturday. So this is a great opportunity that in that event, what we talked about earlier about trying different coaches, you can do that within one time frame on Saturday, where if you come in on Saturday, you can work with 3 different coaches and feel different styles and different just approaches to the same challenge, or you can bring a list of challenges and try them out with different coaches. So it's a wonderful opportunity that's not to be missed. This will be my 3rd year, and I walk away with so many awarenesses. I feel so connected after International Coaching Week, not just to our local community, but to really bringing in that this is a global community and we're making differences all across the world in countries that I didn't even know existed, showed up last year to be coached by. And it helped me expand my own views of my own practice, but then also of the world itself. So I think the link is in the chat. So if you haven't registered to experience that, register today. You can also, if you want to try being a laser coach, we still have room. If you want to help participate and volunteer and practice coaching, that's available for you as well. So,
Katie, there's another question here about the Saturday event, which is, does the laser coaching allow for others to observe the session?
Oh, that is a great question, Joan. It does not. Everyone will be going into private breakout rooms, and you'll have an individual session that no one else has access to. People will have the opportunity to come back and share takeaways with the group while we reset and get ready for our next round. And so you'll have the opportunity to share ahas, but no one has to know anything if you want to keep it to yourself. So it is a private opportunity. Yeah. You're so welcome. Yeah. Any other questions before we say goodbye? No? All right. Well, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our ICW committee. This wouldn't be doable without you. And I appreciate your insights. I appreciate your support. And I look forward to continuing this week and maybe seeing you guys in person at cafes or at the coaching event. We can't wait to see you.